Hello everyone. Today I have an amazing story for you. It's not just for your listening practice, but also to inspire your soul. The story is called Nothing is Free, and it will show you that hard work, grit, and pure determination can change lives, even when the world feels like it's crashing down on you. The 7-day sentence. In the frost-bitten heart of a small mountain town where the wind doesn't just blow, it bites, lived a young man named Ethan. He was 22, but if you looked at his hands, you'd think he was 50. They were cracked from the cold and stained with the grease of a life lived in survival mode. Ethan had a dream. He wanted to be an entrepreneur, to build something that would pull his family out of the mud. But reality was a cruel teacher. His father, Marcus, was a mechanic whose body had finally quit on him. His mother, Eleanor, worked 3 jobs just to keep the lights flickering. But the heaviest weight on Ethan's heart was his 8-year-old sister, Clara. One evening, Ethan found Clara sitting by the window, crying silently. She was holding a crayon, trying to draw the stars she loved so much. But the lines were jagged, overlapping in a chaotic mess. "Ethan," she whispered, her voice trembling. "The stars, they're disappearing. I can't find their edges anymore." The doctor's words from that morning echoed in Ethan's skull like a gunshot. If Ethan didn't find $10,000 in 7 days, Clara would go blind by Christmas. $10,000. In a town where people traded favors for eggs, that amount of money felt like a distant planet. Ethan looked at his sister's fading eyes and made a silent vow. He wouldn't let her world go dark. The deal with the stone miller. The next morning, under a sky the color of wet slate, Ethan walked 5 miles to the edge of town. There stood a fortress of stone and flour, Arthur's hearth. Arthur Vance was the town's baker, but people called him the Stone Miller. He was 68 years old, with skin like parchment and a heart that people said had frozen shut decades ago. Ethan burst through the heavy wooden doors. The smell of yeast and warm honey hit him, but he didn't care about the warmth. He slammed his palms on the flour-dusted counter. "I don't have a penny, Arthur," Ethan said, his voice cracking with a desperate intensity. "But I have a sister who won't see the sunrise if I don't act. Give me your bread on credit. I'll hike to the logging camps, the mine sites, the town square. I'll sell every loaf, pay you your share, and keep the rest for her surgery." Arthur stopped kneading. He looked at Ethan with eyes that seemed to see right through his skin. "The world doesn't give handouts, boy," Arthur growled. "Life is a ledger. Everything has a price. If you fail to pay me back by Christmas Eve, I'm taking your father's old truck as payment. It's the only thing of value your family has left. Deal?" Ethan's heart hammered against his ribs. That truck was his father's last shred of dignity. But he looked at the invisible clock ticking in his head. "Deal," Ethan whispered. The ghost in the snow. For the next 6 days, Ethan became a ghost. He woke at 2 a.m., the stars still sharp and cold above him. He would load 60-pound crates of bread onto his back and trek through snow that reached his knees. He didn't just sell bread, he sold his soul. He stood in the town square until his feet were numb blocks of ice. He shouted until his vocal cords felt like they were bleeding. "Fresh bread! Warm bread! Help me save my sister's sight!" By day 4, the motivation people talk about in books was gone. There was only raw, ugly pain. His skin was peeling from the frost. His back was screaming. And the worst part? The money wasn't enough. People were poor. They bought a loaf here, a bun there.
By the end of day 6, he had only $2,800.
He was failing. The darkness was winning. The turning point, the art of the sacrifice. That night, Ethan crawled into the bakery, collapsing on the floor. "I can't do it, Arthur," he sobbed. "The math doesn't work. I'm going to lose the truck, and she's going to lose her eyes." Arthur didn't offer a hug. He didn't offer pity. He dropped a heavy leather apron onto Ethan's head. "You're selling my bread, Ethan," Arthur said quietly. "It's good, but it's just flour and water. If you want to change the world, you have to put something of yourself into it. Stop selling. Start baking." "I don't know how," Ethan screamed. "Baking isn't about recipes, boy," Arthur said, lighting the massive wood-fired oven. "It's about the fire. If you're empty inside, the bread will be too. But if you pour your fear, your love, and your desperation into the dough, people will taste the truth." They worked through the night. Ethan's hands bled from the kneading, his muscles burned. Every time he felt like fainting, he pictured Clara's face. He poured every ounce of his hope into that oven. By 5 a.m., the bakery didn't just smell like bread. It smelled like a miracle. The heart-touching twist. The final morning arrived. December 24th, Christmas Eve. Ethan was $7,200 short. He walked toward the bakery with his head hanging low. The keys to his father's truck gripped tightly in his hand. He felt like a dead man walking. But as he rounded the corner, he stopped. The street was lined with cars. People were standing in the freezing cold, huddled together. The loggers from the mountains, the miners from the valley, the teachers, the mechanics, everyone was there. Word had spread through the town. Not about a boy selling bread, but about a brother who was willing to break his own body to save his sister's world. Ethan walked into the shop. Arthur was standing at the counter, but he wasn't taking any money. He was handing Ethan a thick, wax-sealed envelope. "Arthur, I can't. I didn't reach the goal," Ethan stammered, holding out the truck keys. Arthur pushed the keys away. He pointed to the golden, perfect loaf Ethan had baked that night. The sacrifice loaf. "I haven't seen anyone bake with that much heart in 40 years, Ethan," Arthur said, his voice thick with an emotion he had hidden for decades. "My own son. He didn't have your fire. I'm an old man with a lot of money and no one to leave this legacy to." Ethan opened the envelope. Inside was a check for $10,000. "This isn't a gift, Ethan," Arthur whispered. "This is an investment. I'm making you my partner. You didn't just save your sister. You saved me from a very lonely end." The Christmas star. Christmas morning. The hospital room was silent, smelling of antiseptic and hope. The surgeon slowly began to unwind the white gauze from Clara's head. Ethan sat by her bed, his hands scarred and smelling of yeast. The bandages fell away. Clara blinked. She winced at the light. Then her eyes found Ethan's tired, tear-streaked face. "Ethan?" she whispered. "I can see the flour on your sweater." She looked at the table where a fresh loaf of bread sat, steam rising like a prayer. "It looks just like the stars," she said, reaching out to touch the golden crust. Ethan realized that while nothing is free, not sight, not success, and certainly not love, the price of a miracle is simply the refusal to give up. He had paid the price in sweat and blood, and in return he had given his sister the world. Thank you for joining me for this episode of our podcast. Stories like Ethan's remind us that even in our darkest hours, there is always a way forward if we are willing to work for it. If you enjoyed this podcast story and want to hear more heart-touching tales of motivation and human resilience, please hit that subscribe button and join our community.